Alright, let's kick things off with a little brain teaser. Imagine a man is looking at a portrait on the wall. Someone asks him, "Whose portrait are you looking at?" He replies, "Brothers and sisters, I have none. But that man's father is my father's son." So who is in the portrait? Take a second to think about it. It feels a little twisty, right? Your brain is trying to follow the logic, untangle the relationships, and connect the dots. This kind of mental puzzle is a great warm-up for what we're about to dive into. It forces you to slow down and really examine the information you're given instead of just jumping to a quick conclusion. The answer, by the way, is his son. If that man's father is my father's son, which is the speaker himself since he has no brothers, then the man in the portrait is his own child. It's a fun little loop of logic. This riddle works because it plays with how we process information and relationships. It's not trying to deceive you with bad information, but it does highlight how easily our thinking can get tangled if we're not careful. It's a perfect little microcosm of the bigger, more complex world of arguments and persuasion we navigate every day, a world that is absolutely filled with logical traps. This process of carefully thinking through a statement is the core skill we're going to explore today. We are constantly bombarded with messages, from advertisements, news headlines, conversations with friends, posts on social media. Everyone is trying to convince us of something. They want us to buy their product, vote for their candidate, or agree with their opinion. And to do that, they use arguments. So, what are these sneaky wobbly arguments? They have a name: fallacies. A fallacy is in simple terms a mistake in reasoning. It's a flaw in the structure of an argument that makes its conclusion unreliable, even if the premises seem true. Think of it like a recipe. You might have all the right ingredients, facts, statistics, quotes, but if you follow the instructions incorrectly, wrong temperature or time, you're not going to get a delicious cake. You're going to end up with a burnt, gooey mess. A fallacy is the bad part of the recipe's instructions. Let's use a real-life example. I saw a celebrity using this new brand of shampoo, so it must be the best one on the market. This sounds persuasive at first. We see a famous, successful person and connect them to the product. But logically, it's a flawed argument. The celebrity's endorsement doesn't actually provide any real evidence about the shampoo's quality, its ingredients, or how it works for different hair types. This is a classic fallacy called an appeal to authority, where we assume something is true just because a person of status said so, not because of any actual evidence. It's a shortcut our brains love to take. Fallacies are not the same as factual errors. A factual error is just getting the facts wrong. For example, saying the capital of Australia is Sydney is a factual error. The capital is Canberra. A fallacy, on the other hand, is about the process of drawing a conclusion. Someone could use all correct facts but still commit a fallacy. Penguins are black and white, old TV shows are black and white, therefore some penguins are old TV shows. See, all the statements are technically true on their own, but the conclusion is completely nonsensical because the logic connecting them is broken. That's the essence of a fallacy. Okay, so we know what fallacies are. They're faulty arguments, logical oopsies. But why should you care? Does it really matter if your friend uses a flimsy reason to buy shampoo? Well, on a small scale, maybe not. But these same flawed arguments are used everywhere, and they can have huge consequences. They influence what we buy, who we vote for, what medical advice we follow, and how we see the world and the people in it. Fallacies are powerful tools of persuasion, and when we don't recognize them, we are basically letting others do our thinking for us, and that can be a dangerous thing. Think about advertising. An ad shows a group on a beach with a soda brand. Close-up of the soda brand. People laughing and partying. The unspoken argument is, and if you drink this soda, you will also be happy, attractive, and have fun. This is a fallacy known as appeal to emotion. The ad isn't giving you info about the soda's taste, ingredients, or nutritional value. It's just associating the product with a positive feeling. It's tricking your brain into connecting happiness with sugar water, and it works. We fall for this kind of thing all the time, and it shapes our decisions as consumers every single day. It gets more serious when fallacies enter public discourse, like in politics or news. You might hear a politician say, we can either fund the new healthcare program, or we can support our military. We can't do both. This is a false dilemma or false dichotomy fallacy. It presents only two extreme options as the only possible choices, when in reality there are likely many other solutions, compromises, or alternative ways to approach the problem. By framing the issue this way, the speaker tries to force you into their preferred choice by making the alternative seem terrible. Understanding fallacies, then, is a form of self-defense. It's like having a shield that protects your mind from manipulation. When you can identify a fallacy, the argument loses its power over you. You can see it for what it is, a trick, not a reason. This allows you to step back, evaluate the claim on its actual merits, and ask for better evidence. Now that we know why fallacies matter, let's get to the fun part, learning how to spot them in the wild. We're going on a little safari into the jungle of bad arguments. I'll be your guide. There are dozens of fallacies, but let's focus on a few of the most common ones you'll encounter. First up is the ad hominem attack. This is Latin for to the person. It's when someone, instead of attacking an argument, attacks the person making the argument. For example, you can't trust Dr. Smith's advice on climate change. I heard she's a terrible tipper. Dr. Smith's tipping habits have absolutely nothing to do with her scientific research. It's a cheap shot meant to distract and discredit. Next, let's look at the straw man fallacy. This one is sneaky. It's when someone misrepresents or exaggerates their opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. Imagine person A says, I think we should invest more in public transit to reduce traffic. Person B responds, so you're saying you want to take away everyone's cars and force us all onto crowded buses? That's a ridiculous idea. Person B built a straw man, a flimsy, easy to knock down version of the original argument, and then attacked that instead of the real point. Another incredibly common one is the slippery slope. This fallacy argues that a small first step will inevitably lead to a chain of related and usually negative events. For instance, if we let students retake this one quiz, they'll expect to retake every test, and soon they'll stop studying altogether and everyone will fail out of school. This argument leaps from a minor, reasonable action to a catastrophic outcome without providing any evidence that the chain of events will actually happen. Finally, we have the bandwagon fallacy. This is the argument that something must be true or good simply because a lot of people believe it or are doing it. Everyone is buying this new phone, so it must be the best one available. Millions of people believe this conspiracy theory, so there must be some truth to it. The popularity of an idea has no bearing on its validity. History is filled with examples of things that were widely believed but were completely wrong. The bandwagon fallacy is basically peer pressure in the form of a logical argument, and it encourages us to stop thinking for ourselves and just follow the crowd. So you have your field guide. You can now identify an ad hominem, straw man. What's next? How do you use this knowledge in your daily life to make better choices? The first and most important step is to slow down. Fallacies work best when we're thinking fast. Our brains are wired to be efficient, and that often means taking mental shortcuts. When you hear an argument, especially one that makes you feel a strong emotion, anger, excitement, take a breath, ask yourself, is this argument actually making a logical point, or is it just pushing my emotional buttons? The second tip is to separate the person from the message. This helps you avoid ad hominem and the appeal to authority. Try to evaluate the argument on its own merits, regardless of who is saying it. Does the evidence support the conclusion? Are the facts verifiable? A brilliant scientist can still make a bad argument. A person you dislike can still make a good one. Focus on the content, not the character. It forces the argument to stand on its own 2 feet. Third, learn to ask good questions. When you think you've spotted a fallacy, challenge it politely. False dilemma. Ask, are those really the only 2 options? What about slippery slope? Ask, what evidence shows the first step will lead to that outcome? This isn't about winning, it's about finding the truth. Good questions help everyone move past flawed reasoning. They turn a debate into a collaboration. And now, for a fun challenge. Read the comments of a news article. Read the comments of a popular YouTube video. Your mission, become a fallacy detective. Find at least 3 different fallacies in the comments. Write them down and identify them. Straw man, ad hominem, bandwagon argument. This isn't about judging commenters. It's practice. It's like taking your brain to the gym. Practice spotting fallacies in the wild, and you'll spot them in your own life and resist their manipulative power. Happy hunting.